Most people believe wars are won by the biggest armies and the strongest weapons. But history shows that some of the most decisive victories came from commanders who appeared to be losing. Over 2,000 years ago, one general deliberately allowed his army to be pushed backward, step by step, to lure his enemy into a fatal mistake. What followed became one of the most studied battles in military history and reshaped how warfare is understood to this day. If you enjoy deep military breakdowns like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with the next historic battle you want analyzed. Because in this video, we're breaking down how one battle broke every rule of war and still won. In 216 BC, the Roman Republic stood at the height of its power. Rome was not simply a city-state anymore. It was an expanding military machine. Its influence stretched across Italy, its armies had crushed rivals for generations, and its political system was built around the assumption that Rome would always endure. The foundation of Roman dominance was its army. Roman legions were disciplined, standardized, and relentless. Soldiers were trained to fight as a unit rather than as individuals. Their equipment was uniform, their formations rigid, and their doctrine simple. Apply overwhelming pressure until the enemy breaks. This system had worked repeatedly. When Rome lost a battle, it raised another army. When Rome lost an army, it raised two more. Attrition favored Rome because Rome could afford losses that others could not. Victory in the Roman worldview was a matter of time and numbers. Opposing Rome was Carthage, a rival power whose strength came not from mass infantry, but from trade, wealth, and mobility. Leading Carthage's army was Hannibal Barca, a commander who understood that he could never defeat Rome by fighting the way Rome wanted him to fight. Hannibal's campaign into Italy was already considered audacious. Marching an army across the Alps was itself an extraordinary feat. But once in Italy, Hannibal did something even more dangerous. He defeated Roman armies repeatedly on their own territory. Each defeat humiliated Rome. Each loss challenged Roman confidence. But Rome responded in the only way it knew how, by raising an even larger army. By the time the two forces met near the small town of Cannae, Rome had assembled one of the largest armies it had ever fielded. Tens of thousands of soldiers stood ready, packed into deep formations designed to push forward with unstoppable force. The Roman plan was straightforward: engage Hannibal directly, crush his center, and destroy his army in a single decisive battle. Roman commanders believed that sheer mass would finally end the campaign. What Rome failed to understand was that Hannibal had anticipated this exact response. Hannibal did not intend to resist Rome's strength head-on. Instead, he intended to turn that strength against itself. Rather than reinforcing his center, Hannibal deliberately weakened it. He placed his least reliable troops at the center of his formation and pushed them forward, creating a bulging line that appeared vulnerable and unstable. To Roman commanders, this looked like an opportunity. A weak center was exactly what Roman doctrine was designed to exploit. The Roman legions advanced with confidence, pressing forward in massive blocks of infantry. As the battle began, Hannibal's center slowly fell back. To Roman eyes, the enemy was breaking. Momentum increased. Pressure intensified. The Roman formation pushed deeper and deeper into the Carthaginian line. But the retreat was not a collapse. It was controlled. Hannibal's center bent inward gradually, maintaining cohesion while yielding ground. Roman units followed, compressing their own formation as they advanced. The deeper they pushed, the more crowded their ranks became. As space disappeared, flexibility vanished. Roman soldiers could no longer maneuver laterally. Communication between units became difficult. Commanders lost the ability to see and control the battlefield beyond their immediate surroundings. All the while, Hannibal's strongest forces remained untouched on the flanks. Hannibal understood something fundamental about warfare. Battles are not decided by strength alone. They are decided by control of space, timing, and perception. Once the Roman army was fully committed and unable to maneuver, Hannibal executed the decisive phase of his plan. Carthaginian cavalry smashed into Rome's mounted forces, overwhelming them and driving them from the field. With Roman cavalry destroyed, the flanks of the Roman infantry were exposed. At the same time, Hannibal's infantry on both flanks pivoted inward. The Roman army was surrounded. This maneuver, later known as the double envelopment, trapped tens of thousands of Roman soldiers in a tightening ring of enemy forces. Packed so tightly they could barely move, Roman troops lost the ability to fight effectively. Rome's greatest strength, mass, became its greatest weakness. With no room to maneuver and no avenue of escape, Roman command and control collapsed. Orders could not be passed, units could not reposition, soldiers could not even raise their weapons properly. What followed was not a conventional battle. It was a methodical destruction. Hour after hour, the encirclement tightened. Roman soldiers were cut down where they stood. Entire units ceased to exist. By the end of the day, Rome had suffered one of the most catastrophic defeats in military history. The physical losses were staggering. Tens of thousands of soldiers were killed or captured. Senior commanders were lost. Entire legions vanished in a single afternoon. But the psychological impact was even greater. The defeat at Cannae shattered the myth of Roman invincibility. Allies defected. Rivals sensed weakness. For the first time in generations, Rome faced the possibility that it might actually lose. Yet Hannibal's victory revealed a deeper truth about warfare. Cannae demonstrated that numerical superiority does not guarantee success. Discipline and bravery are meaningless if an army loses the ability to maneuver. Once space is denied and movement is restricted, even the strongest force can be destroyed. For centuries, military leaders studied Cannae not because of the weapons used, but because of the decisions made. Encirclement does not merely destroy an army physically, it destroys it psychologically. When soldiers realize there is no escape, morale collapses. Command breaks down. Cohesion disintegrates. These principles did not vanish with ancient warfare. They reappear repeatedly throughout history. From Napoleonic campaigns to mechanized warfare, commanders who understood maneuver in space achieved decisive victories against larger forces. Conversely, armies that allowed themselves to be fixed, compressed, and surrounded suffered catastrophic defeats. Modern militaries still train extensively to avoid encirclement. Doctrine emphasizes mobility, dispersion, and situational awareness for a reason. Once freedom of movement is lost, technology and numbers mean little. Cannae is not a story about swords and shields. It is a case study in human behavior under pressure. It is about exploiting assumptions, shaping enemy decisions, and controlling how a battle unfolds before the first blow is struck. Hannibal did not win because he had better soldiers. He won because he understood his enemy better than they understood themselves. The real lesson of Cannae is unforgiving. Victory does not belong to the strongest army. It belongs to the commander who controls space, timing, and perception. More than 2,000 years later, that lesson has never stopped being true.